their classes, as a result of our methodologies, as a result of our activities in the class, our students get to develop their thinking, their creativity, their innovation, and all that. So that is what I'll be speaking on this morning with you all. Hope to learn from you as well too. So talking about our students and talking about our classes as regards interactivity and all that, we've got different categories of learners. And these learners cut across different categories, whether you're talking about primary school pupils, you're talking about secondary school students, undergrads, even adults. These learning styles on my screen now affect everyone. So this research was conducted, and the find out that 29% of learners are visual learners, meaning they remember images, shapes, color, pictures, videos, things you show them, they're able to remember. We've got some people too that are audio learners. By just listening to words, listening to voices, sounds, and music, they tend to pick up something and learn. And we have 37% of people.
Just for that lesson, that teacher listen.
Wow.
Teachers listen.
Hello, please, can we mute ourselves?
Okay.
Please, let's mute our microphone. Okay, as I was saying, we've got 37% of learners who are kinesthetics. They remember that by doing, by moving, by touching. So what we want to do in our classes at every point in time is to ensure that we take care of all the three categories. So we make sure that all the activities that we do in our classes, the methodologies we want to adopt in our classes, take care of these three categories of learners: the visual learners, the auditory learners, or the kinesthetics learners, so that at the end of the day, whichever categories the learners fall in, they get to learn in our classes. And that's part of our job as teachers. This is even a crisis in itself. So we as teachers want to ensure that we take care of different categories of learners in the classes, whether they're visual, they're auditory, and they're kinesthetic learners. So that will lead me to what interactive learning is all about. When we say interactive learning, we are talking about a hands-on approach that can help our students become engaged in the class with the teaching resources. And this could be with or without any form of technology. I know I love technology. Yes, I've been using tech in my classes and all that. I support the use of tech. But technology is not the cake itself. It's just the icing on the cake. So don't let us just, I'm trying to paint a picture that we shouldn't just say everything has to do with technology. Yes, technology can help us leapfrog, do a whole lot of things, but you can still ensure that you have interactive learning in the class with or without a form of technology. So that's set. So interactive learning in our class, we want to ensure that our students become more engaged. We want to help them strengthen their problem solving and critical thinking skill. So when we ensure that we go beyond the lower order thinking that has to do with just knowledge and comprehension, when we now move up to the higher order thinking, when we talk about analysis, application, synthesis, evaluation, when we do all those things, we help our students to strengthen their problem solving and critical thinking skills. We don't want students that will just sit in the class and I will just be in front as a sage on the stage, the teacher, then I will just roll out the points and just write notes on the board and the student will just sit down there and take notes as stenographers and all that. No, we want our students to be involved in the teaching and learning in the classes. We want them to be actively engaged. It is when they are actively engaged in the class that we can now say that what we're actually doing is interactive learning. When students get to move around, when they get to use their hands to do certain things, when they are involved in the teaching, not that they are just sitting down in the class quiet just to listen to the teacher who is the all in all in the class, who student dare not challenge or ask questions and all that. So we don't want the conventional learning approach where the students are expected to just stay alone and open their books and just stay there from morning till night learning. We want a situation whereby students will come together to even work on a project together, to collaborate, to drive learning in the class. So interactive learning, again, I said, is an hands-on approach to help students become more engaged. So that is where we're actually going. And so this morning we want to look at how to get there, how to ensure that we deploy these methodologies in our classes every day. So interactive learning, like I said earlier on, it's hands-on, real-world approach to education. Real world, very, very key, very, very important, real world approach to education. I wouldn't want a situation whereby you'll be teaching mathematics in the class and everything we solve for X, solve for A, solve for Y, solve for Q, where we can actually bring the lesson home and make it more real to our student by saying, let's try and find the bearing from the classroom to the field, or from the principal's office to the biology laboratory, so that we can bring the whole thing in and ensure that students link what they're learning, the theories, the theories, the laws, the concept they are learning in the class, they are able to link it with what goes on outside there in the world. So lectures are now being changed into discussions where students and teachers become partners. They tend to talk, they tend to work together on projects in the class. They tend to have a kind of discussion where teacher will give room for students to express themselves in the class. Teacher just asks the students to just stay. Interactive learning will bring real world approaches to education, and it's not just a lecture approach where the teacher just stay there and continue to talk without the student having. So these should change to that are engaged in a form of discussion, which will in itself drive knowledge acquisition, which will help the student to even construct knowledge, and the teacher will be able to do more. So how do we now apply this interactive approach in education? I've got make here. As teachers, we want to ensure to make it interesting. We want to make learning fun. If it is not fun, if it is not interesting, I tell you, the student will just switch off the moment the teacher gets into the class. We've got some students that in public school, I wouldn't know anything about private school. Maybe they don't have what we call school two and what have you. But in public school, we've got what we call school two. This is where some students usually run to when they're not feeling cool with what is going on in the class. So we've got students that will leave the bushes and get to the class to attend a particular teacher's class because they feel at home in that particular class. They believe that class is usually interesting, is usually fun, and they love the teacher's approach. So the moment the teacher ends class, they run out again to the bush because another teacher is coming in who will make life difficult for them and all that. So we need to ensure that we make it interesting. We use questions that stimulate responses and discussion. So it's not just asking a one-liner question. We want questions that we can probe. I'll still talk a bit more about questions later. So we want to set up a work group environment for our students. We want to promote collaboration. When we even talk about 21st century learning design, we've got 4 key, if you bring it very, very small, we've got 4 key concepts there. We're talking about collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity. If you blow that up a little bit, we talk about self-regulation, we talk about the use of ICT and real-world problem solving. So for us to be able to capture all this and make our approach a student-centered approach, we should be able to ensure that we set up that work group environment for our students. And they are able to work with their peers in the class, and they are able to work with even teachers, not just even in the class. They can even work with students outside your class, even outside the state, or even outside the country as a whole. And teachers should be able to encourage student participation. If students are not actively involved in the class, that class is not interactive, and students will get bored and just switch off. They will probably be in the class, but their mind will have traveled somewhere else. They will have hopped on a plane and will have chased out of your class to somewhere else because the class is not engaging enough. So we should always ensure that we encourage student participation. And we use teaching aids that press for answers. that captures, that hold the student's attention in the class. So use of teaching aids is very, very important too. Even if you're not using technology now, but you're still using teaching aids that will promote interactivity in the class, that will ensure that students are busy doing something in the class. The ordinary human being, not even student, this at this time, ordinary human being, we don't just want to sit down doing nothing. It's difficult. It will amount to punishing people when you just, if you tell somebody, okay, sit down on that seat, I don't even want you to get up, don't do anything, don't touch anything. No, no, no. It's somehow it's going to be boring. So many a time we tell our students, sit down there, shut up, don't say anything, just sit down there. They get bored because they are not wired to just sit down and just keep quiet without doing anything for a longer period of time. Hello, please just put your microphone. Hello. Hello, can you mute your microphone? Oh, okay, thank you. So as I was saying, we should be able to use teaching aid. Are you still with me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you. So please, I need somebody to just be the class captain there to help mute our people as they're coming in so that they don't distract us. Oh, so as I was saying, I said teachers should be able to use teaching aids that will help student participation in the class, even if it's not about technology. Ordinary cards out there, you're using drawings, you're using pictures and what have you. You just want to ensure the students are actively involved in the class. That helps the student to be very active in the class. I was in the class with my partner teacher in a school where I taught mathematics briefly in US, and I saw what the man did that class. He was teaching them mathematics. So before the student moved into the class, he wrote different questions. Question A, he started from one corner in the class, he wrote question A. So once you're able to solve question A, your answer will form the equation that you need to solve question B that is boldly written on the wall in another part of the class. So he had like 5 different equations written in different corners in the classes. And the students were coming in, they're moving in groups, they're approaching the different points to solve the question, they discuss, and they move from there to another part of the class. It was really, really interesting. They did not even make use of a computer system or the projector or any robotic gadget. They were basically just, because of what the teacher did, the students were able to move and they were able to talk, they were able to discuss. So they were like, okay, I'll be the first person to complete the 5 set of equations. That's kind of fun. That's interactive. Instead of having a student just sit down in the same spot from the first period to the 8th period, it's somehow, I even pity the student at times when you look at the schedule for day and a daily schedule and you see 8 periods. Though they usually have 2 breaks, the short break and long break, but they get to sit down for 2-3 hours. And if the teachers are using the same kind of methodology, maybe they will just come to the class and just speak to the wall and then write notes on the board. Then the student will write notes the first period, write notes and listen the second period, still on their seats. So we need to be able to spice things up as teachers. Let them get up on their seat. Let them move around, discuss in the class. This will aid their interactivity and their engagement level in the class. We also should be able to involve ourselves, I mean the teachers, as the students too. Because when you immerse yourself, when you wear the toga of the student, then you tend to feel what they feel. Then you tend to know how to move things around. So a good teacher should also be a good learner anyway. So that's another point entirely. A good teacher must be ready to learn because you must be ready to learn every time. So in this case, you want to involve yourself as student. You want to just sit down and have the student discuss where you just listen and let them lead the conversation and let them drive conversation around a particular concept or topic while you're there as a teacher facilitating, like just a moderator somewhere there, and you allow the student to just express themselves. Maybe you just chip in one probing question once a while and then ask the quiz. Do you agree with what Sholam said? And another student will come up and say something. That will help drive what we call this interactive teaching approach in the class. Okay, so what are the various techniques that we can use as teachers to ensure that our classes are fun and our classes are engaging? I've got one here. I say, show me and problem solving. I say, show me problem solving, thinking time, paired talk or brainstorming, get up and go. Then I've got Q&A session. These are different techniques that I've listed out there. The list is not exhaustive anyway, so we can explore different areas and still populate this list and just create more and add other things to it. But I'll be speaking on these 5 interactive techniques. So we don't want what is going on the right corner of my screen in our classes, where in the case where the teacher is there teaching and the students are sleeping, literally. I know they won't be able to lie down on the floor in our classes, but they will be on their seats, but they will be sleeping. We don't want that to happen. So I'll pick on all these techniques one after the other. Show me and problem solving. The focus is learning how to solve real problems that involve real people, real situations. So this will help us prepare our students for the future. We want to prepare them beyond what goes on in the classes. So when you see real world problems and you link it with the topic you're teaching in the class, and you want the student to come on board and try and think around that particular problem and try to provide solution to the problem, that will help them, because it will help them think, it will help them reason beyond what goes on in the class. So we can provide small group of students with details and then ask them to develop a workable solution around this. So we want them to even show us the solution they desire. We want them to even come up and say, yes, this thing has been going on this way before I was even born, but now I'm thinking, is there a way we can do things better? They won't be able to do that if we do not provide them the opportunity of thinking beyond the concept, thinking beyond that particular topic we are teaching them in the class. So we are not just teaching them nutrition in the class. We want them to understand healthy living. We're not just teaching them respiration or all those systems of the body, but we want them to be able to understand that if I take too much alcohol, it will affect this particular organ and all that. They should be able to relate it to what's happening in the world. We are not just teaching them Hooke's law or Charles' law or Boyle's law or any of these Archimedes principles and what have you. We want them to be able to apply it to the real world. In mathematics, we're not just teaching them bearing, we're not just teaching them longitude and latitude. We want them to be able to walk their way around them and plan that, okay, now I understand this is why this is working this way. This is why this is working this way. Beyond the shores of the cloud. So when we expose them to, when we bring in real world problem or actual incidents and ask them to develop a working solution, we are already encouraging them to show us what they feel they can do as students to solve certain problems around us. So we can encourage this. This is one technique that it's cool that our students would love to do. I remember there was a time we had a topic on search engine in the class, and I just asked the student, do you know anything about sustainable development goals? And they said only few of them raised up their hands that, yes, I know something about sustainable development goals. I said, okay, you need to show me truly that you know anything about sustainable development goal. Pick any of the 17 goals and try and know a solution. You solutions can contribute towards achieving or actualizing that particular. And it was fun. I had a group of students that developed a biogas plant to be able to generate methane gas so that they can use it in their lab and at the same time work towards the goal 7 to say, yes, we want to promote climate, we want to try and do something about climate change so people will not be burning woods to cook and all that, they can always generate methane gas in their homes. So students are there, they can think. We've got fantastic students, even especially in Africa. We've got a younger group of people, a younger generation, and we need to start letting them in various problems that we have in the society, so the actual incidents happening around us, so that they can start thinking how to solve this problem. This will help develop interactivity in the class and promote interactive learning. The second technique is thinking time. Many times we ask students questions, we even want them to think, we just want them to come up with answers immediately. So we want to give them what we call thinking time. You give pupils time to gather their thoughts. You allow them to gather their thoughts, then they tend to come up with something very, very concrete. They won't just come up with something vague. They want to think deeply. They can even talk to their mates and discuss notes before they even come up and say something. This helps a lot when you have students, when you encourage students to always interact, always work together, always discuss. Maybe they're in pairs, two students on a chair, and you question before they come up to talk. This will also help you. This is one nice technique of ensuring that you promote interactive learning in the class. Another technique is peer talk and brainstorming. This process is very, very useful. We want our students to come up with creative thoughts and ideas. So it could be structured and unstructured. The brainstorming session could be structured and unstructured, meaning you have planned it beforehand, or you can just get into the class and just say, okay, 1, 2, 3, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all ones move together, let's do something. And they can as well do what we call reverse and negative thinking. This is very, you know that this is what you're driving at, or maybe you even know that this is the true solution, or this is the correct approach to solving a particular problem. But you want to do what we call reverse or negative thinking. You just want the student to, okay, why not do it this way? You want the student to continue to brainstorm and think. And when you are even doing this, you can use technology to facilitate this. It could even be on interactions such as a conversation in Microsoft Teams here and there, or they are even having a chat, or there is a forum. You've got a forum where you want people to, like Yammer, you want people to come in there and talk about certain things. You want them to send mails to one another in the class and all that. So you can encourage what we call peer talk and brainstorming, so that students will